Hi everyone, and welcome. It's time for another update. Today we want to focus on one specific part of the record, the Singapore corporate structure behind this matter. Because beyond the websites, the branded business narratives, and the commercial promises, there is also a formal company record. And in this case, that record matters. An ACRA business profile dated July 2024 shows LLHP PTE Ltd as a live company in Singapore. The profile shows the company as incorporated on May 2019. It also shows the registered office at International Plaza, Singapore. The same record also shows the formal officer structure. It lists Chan Ike Lee Ken as director. It lists La Hong Lin as director. And it lists Chan Ike Lee Ken again as secretary. This matters because it places La Hong Lin, also publicly referred to in some context as Elena Lin, directly within the formal governance layer of the Singapore company. The name is relevant here because it appears in the official company profile, not as a rumor, not as an external association, but as part of the formal corporate record reviewed. The shareholder record is particularly relevant. The same ACRA profile shows 4 named shareholders. La Hong Lin with 593 ordinary shares, Nguyen Ha Dan with 340 ordinary shares, Hoang Thi Lien with 267 ordinary shares, and Harry Pierre Jean-Jacques Morant with 50 ordinary shares. So based on that official company profile, La Hong Lin appears not only as director, but also as the largest listed shareholder of LLHP PTE Ltd. That is not a minor detail, because it means the Singapore entity was not simply a background reference in the wider commercial story. Stay with me until the end, because the final part connects the record in a way that makes the wider accountability question much harder to ignore. The reviewed company profile places the same name inside both the governance structure and the ownership structure of the legal entity. This is especially relevant in light of later communications suggesting that operational responsibility had moved elsewhere. A transfer of operational management may be possible. A change in management may be possible. A restructuring may be possible. But the shareholder record raises a different question. If operational responsibility changed, what changed at the ownership level? Who remained in control? Who had authority? Who could approve reimbursement? And who was responsible for resolving obligations linked to the entity structure? That is why the register matters. Now, the ACRA profile also lists the company's formal business activities. Those activities are development of software and applications and information technology consultancy. That is where another important question begins. Because when we look at the wider commercial picture connected to this structure, the outward scope appears much broader than software development or IT consultancy alone. Buy2Sell appears in the contractual and commercial context. Lala Wine has also been linked publicly to the same broader orbit, and the wider LLMH branded ecosystem has presented multiple business lines and commercial narratives beyond software or IT alone. So the structural question is simple. How does that narrow formal registry scope sit alongside the broader commercial reality being presented outwardly? That does not answer everything, and it does not by itself prove misconduct. But it does raise a serious question about alignment. Was the legal entity aligned with the commercial presentation? Was the operating reality aligned with the formal registry scope? And when commercial obligations became disputed, which entity, role, or decision-maker was responsible? Another label that deserves attention is Lotus Retail Management. Public-facing profile material describes Lotus Retail Management as a Singapore-based business tied to Elena Lin and Buy2Sell, focused on physical stores, online sales, import, manufacturing, and supply chain management. But in the open record review conducted so far, the legal substance behind that exact name appears less clear than the commercial presentation around it. Again, that does not prove misconduct, but it reinforces a wider structural concern. Broad commercial narratives appear to be presented more clearly than the underlying legal accountability structure. The record becomes even more relevant when read together with public reporting from 2024. A VTV News article reported that Buy2Sell changed its organizational structure from April 2024. It reported that the French executive director was dismissed. It reported that Le Hong Lin was appointed as the new CEO, replacing Harry Morant. And it also reported that the board of shareholders had decided to replace personnel and re-establish the operational and management structure. That public reporting matters because the July 2024 Singapore company profile still showed Harry-Pierre Jean-Jacques Morant in the shareholder structure. At the same time, the same profile showed Le Hong Lin as director and as the largest listed shareholder. So the public narrative of operational replacement does not automatically mean clean separation at the ownership layer. That is not a personal claim. It is what the reviewed company profile records, and that is why this register matters. This is no longer only about websites, emails, public-facing brand narratives, or commercial presentations. It is also about the formal company file. The Singapore record shows the governance structure, it shows the shareholder structure, it shows the formal business activities, and it raises questions about how that formal structure connects with the much broader commercial ecosystem presented outwardly. When the same name appears across formal records, public reporting, and related commercial narratives, the question is no longer only who appeared in the story. The question is, what role the legal entity played in the structure, what authority existed, what accountability existed, and what happened when performance and reimbursement became unresolved. The Singapore Register does not answer every question, but it does make one point difficult to ignore. In the legal company behind this structure, the person later described in public and corporate contexts as Elena Lin was recorded at both director level and shareholder level, and when that is read together with the public reporting around the replacement of Harry Morant in 2024, the structure becomes more relevant, not less. Because the Singapore legal entity now appears struck off in later records reviewed, our next step is to continue reviewing the corporate trail from the shareholder record itself. The question now is whether the same commercial architecture may have continued through related, successor, or newly incorporated entities. That is the structural issue. Not personal narrative, not speculation, the register, the shareholder record, the business scope, the outward commercial presentation, and the unresolved accountability trail. Recovery remains the first objective, but documentation continues because the matter remains unresolved. And broader visibility helps other companies make informed decisions before relying on market entry promises, signing commercial agreements, or committing funds through cross-border structures. Transparency is not escalation. It is what remains when a commercial dispute keeps changing shape but never reaches a concrete resolution. Thank you and stay tuned.